Good morning, good afternoon, good day. Hello, wherever you are, and welcome to Global Focus today. I am Reverend Sharri Johnson, your host, and it is my absolute delight to have you here today to welcome the most amazing guest. I know I say that every week because it's always true. When I taught college, I used to tell my students that I never referred to myself as a teacher because we think in pictures instead of words. And the picture in our society for a teacher is a little old lady with a pencil stuck through her bun and an apple on her desk who can tip your head sideways, tuck a funnel in your ear, and pour in knowledge, direct, undiluted, and with absolutely no effort on your part. This is physically impossible. Not even Counselor Troy could do it. Instead, I use the term educator because it comes from the Latin educare, to lead out. And that's all you can really do is lead the information that's already there out into the awareness of the person. Now, you couple that definition of educator with the fact that teachers are not made, they are born. And our guest is the perfect example of both. Dr. Laura Mock is she's an educator par excellence. She's an educator from the skin into the bones and from the bones out to the aura. She has a Bachelor of Science in Psychology from North Carolina State, which is one of my alma maters. She teaches all age levels. She has a master's in spiritual studies from Emerson Theological Institute and is a practitioner of religious science from Emerson, and she has a doctorate of spiritual studies from Emerson. And here's the big one, folks. She actually created her own school of wisdom. It's called Vistara School of Wisdom, and I'm not going to tell you anything more about it because I want to ask her. So welcome, please, Dr. Laura Mock.
You're such a sweetheart. That was so sweet. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so tickled to have you be here. And the first thing I want to know is, how did you come up with it? Well, I'm going to have you tell me how all these things happened, but how did you come up with the name Vistara? What does that mean? It sounds like something that means something.
Ooh, you're right. And it was interesting because the idea for this school, I really do feel like it was like I was just a vessel for it, and I feel like I'm the custodian of it. I don't think it's mine necessarily. So the ideas of the school were coming way before the name ever came, and the philosophy and the mission of it. And then I just could not come up with. I don't love labeling things to begin with because I feel like it limits things, and so I was just really struggling with that. So I knew I needed to have a name that exemplified the mission of the school, but also what people would ask questions about it because it's not a word that you hear, and at least not, I've never heard the word before. So I was talking to my son, who was 18 at the time, and we were just talking about what I was doing, and he's always been so supportive. He's now 20, and we were just having a conversation one day, and he said, "Mom, what about something that expansive or expansion?" And my mentor, Missy Higginbotham, who has been literally the best and the most amazing friend, mentor, supporter of this entire thing, we had been looking up words in ancient Sanskrit with kind of the energy of the school. But when I heard Sam say that, I was like, ooh. And so we looked, both of us together, we looked, and we're not sure exactly in ancient Sanskrit how to say it, but Vistara or Vistara means expansive, expansion. And that's when I knew it. And what's so cool is when you know that you are just a vessel for something to come through you. I could never imagined how perfect that word was, because if you break it up, vista is I see, like seeing a vista. Vista is I see. Stara is I feel. So I always say vista is I see light. Stara is I feel light. And together Vistara comes together, and I am light, and we expand from that space.
Oh, now there's more. There's more, and you don't even know it. Okay, listen to this. I have always, before I ever heard about New Thought, when I was still a little Catholic girl, always understood that spiritual life spiritual growth was an upward spiral. And it's a spiral that gets bigger and bigger and bigger as it goes around. And that's, I'm getting God bumps on my God.
Yes. Oh, don't
That's
even.
what Vistara says to me. It
Yeah.
expands and it expands and it expands.
Yeah.
Oh, so wonderful. Oh,
That's so cool. I love that yeah, because and it's funny because I had been doing I've been on a spiritual path for a while, but this whole Vistara thing, I'm a student of it as well, right? Because it's taught me so much. But that's it. It's the spiral. And so Vistara, we have branch schools that reach out, um, and reach out in very unique ways to bring people back into their source, so then they can spiral from that place
yep.
versus, where we sometimes get stuck here. Um, and so that's kind of the whole point of it. I consider it a mystery school. Um, and it started out very quiet and very small, and I never imagined it would grow. And now I think we're my son said the other day, he was like, "What do you mean you couldn't imagine it was going to grow? You named it expansive or expansion. Of course it's going to grow." I'm like, "Oh yeah, yeah, you're right."
Okay, so tell us how it got started and what it looks like and what happens there. And
Right.
sooner or later, I have to know how food, and I understood music and storytelling and dance. Food, now that
Mhm.
caught my attention. So I want to hear that part
It
too.
catches a lot of people's attention. How it came to be. So I have been so my first, like you said, my first. I'll try to keep this short, but
You can talk as long as you want. We have a whole hour if you need it.
I'm sure. Well, we don't want to bore anyone, but the first part of my career, I'm almost 50, and the first part of my career was elementary education. Oh, that was something I was very passionate about. Um, but always a little frustrated. Here in North Carolina, my father was an educator. My mother was actually the first person that piloted the first kindergarten program in North Carolina, in McAdenville, North Carolina. And so I was around all these educators, and I love the way you described that at the beginning. I believe in that so strongly. But I was also frustrated because I was one of those sensitive kids, those empathic, sensitive kids that probably always felt a little misunderstood. And I felt like we were doing a really great job educating the mind, but not doing a great job of opening the heart and acknowledging emotions and emotional growth and well being of our students. And I think studies show that. I think we see a tremendous amount of um, anxiety, stress, depression, and suicide. And those numbers, unfortunately, have only grown. And so a big part of my mission has always been emotional education and empowerment in schools. And that led me to teach in between children. I have two boys. I taught in between, mostly fourth and fifth grade, one of my favorite ages. And then I became a director of a charter school for a period of time, which is like a principal. And it was a nature based charter school. And I really took that position because I really wanted to make an influence on emotional empowerment education in school. Um, it was an exhausting job. It was a wonderful job. I don't think I was the most perfect person for that job, for many different reasons. But this other thing kept calling me. And so at the same time, I'm going on my own spiritual journey, going back. I'm going on my own spiritual journey as an educator. I'm learning a lot, studying a lot. And then I think people started noticing, friends and family, and they started asking me, what are you doing? Why are you feeling you're feeling peaceful and joyful and happy? What's going on? And it's like, oh my God, I just read this book, or I just took this class. And so that evolved into me becoming kind of a spiritual mentor, a guide, so to speak, knowing that I am always a student and teacher, never the expert. And so I've been doing spiritual counseling for quite a while now and working with all ages. And one time, probably it was during COVID, like a lot of people having great ideas during COVID. Um, I was frustrated actually. I was mad about something, which is not a typical emotion for me as much anymore. But I was frustrated, and um, I believe it was something to the effect of like I had been working with a teenager for a period of time, and I am a non-traditional counselor, and everyone knows that there's a waiver for that. Um, but and I needed to get this girl immediate help. It wasn't a typical client of mine, but I met her and I knew she needed immediate help in another field. But I felt like I understood her very well. They would not listen or talk to me because I did not have the credentials that they needed. And just said, I like, you need, I can, I need to help you at least understand where this kid's coming from. And then you take it from here and you don't have to tell me anything. And they wouldn't do it. And I got mad. And I thought, here, I'm not serving my client. And if there's a certain degree that's holding me back from that, I'm going to go pursue it. And my husband looked at me and was like, what are you talking about? You've got all the stuff from Emerson. You know what you're talking about. He was like, go and get a degree in something traditional when you're not traditional and that's not your mission is silly. And he was right. So I got up and I'm like, okay. And I literally said, if not this, then what? And it makes me want to cry because I heard a man's voice, a male voice, it felt masculine at least, say, why not you? And it was, why not me? And it was, I remember reading Viktor Frankl's book,
Oh,
Man's,
yes.
yeah, it was my dad's favorite book. My dad's been
Losing humanity to
transitioned
man.
13 years ago, but it was my dad's favorite book. And I didn't read it for a long time. And I read Man's Search for Meaning. And of course, that's about the Holocaust. And he was, I believe, a psychoanalyst before he went in. And he talked about the horrific experiences. And then he also talked about the aftermath and what he learned and how he changed the world after he came out. And I remember when I heard that voice, why not you? It was more like, well, Viktor Frankl actually created a brand new way of thinking for his generation and his time frame, called logotherapy, or probably logos therapy. I'm not German, but and I thought, well, he did it, and I feel like I have been taught from so many people. I feel like I have something here that's coming through that maybe can help others because it makes me cry. My mission is to serve. Sherry, I haven't even started. So anyway,
You're not the first one, and you won't be the last.
I know. Well, people that know me know I cry easily. So, but I remember I can go back into that feeling. I'm actually watching where I felt it right over there. And it was like, why not you? And I remember thinking, okay, if I'm going to do something to help, show me the way. And it took the last 10 years of knowledge and all these different ideas. And I had no idea that I was developing something that whole time. And it was all these things being put together into one pot. And eventually, when I said yes to that, when I said yes, that I will be the custodian of this, yes, I will be guided, yes, I will keep it pure and loving and kind, but it will be a service and I will act. I will put action behind it, both the feminine and masculine coming together as one. That's when more came through. And then the first year, I had 3 programs. I had the one program I thought was the weirdest one of all. That was the one that people signed up for the most. And then through that, it just started to build. And I started understanding from my clients, from students that were signing up, of what my purpose and my mission is. And so we're expanding into another aspect. And I've been an incredible, grateful student of it all. And I'm still watching it unfold. And if I had known 2 years ago where we are now, I probably would have been intimidated or scared or not wanting to do it because it looked like a lot of work. Of course, that
My
was
grandma used to say, you can if in this hand and
right.
spit in this hand. And
Mhm.
this hand will fill up first every time.
It's so true. But again, this whole the star thing was there. Like if I have fear, I had fear, I had doubt where I had not felt that way in a long time. You get to these places in your spiritual journey and you're like, I got this. And then it's like, oh, I'm scared. I'm scared. And so, but I'm so grateful because it's unveiled bits and pieces at a time to where it helps me grow. I evolve. I am, Missy Higginbotham and I talk about transcendence all the time. So I'm in that transcendence place. and then I plateau a little bit. And then I play around with that energy for a while, and then I'm ready for more. And then I have to get clear and cleanse. And there may be some old stuff that comes up that I thought wasn't there, and I clean that out. And then it seems like the next iteration of the star happens, and the next group of people come in, because the star is about the people and the energy that are there.
So tell us about the program that you thought was the weirdest one of all that everybody
Well, the
registered.
weirdest, when I originally started, I thought,
First
well,
started. What did you start with?
when I originally started, I thought, well, I'll do what I've been doing with clients anyway, but make it a little more, people were looking for a little more structure. Now, I don't believe at all that spiritual growth comes from structure. However, I do think it's the intellectual mind needs to feel safe and needs to be acknowledged, because that's how we've been trained. And that's, I know that from teaching forever, that we have been trained since we were little of a structured, like, this is the right way, this is the wrong way. And we weren't really encouraged to intrinsically listen to our inner voice, to our inner wisdom. And so here we are. And so here I've got adults that are big hearts, but have some blocks. And a lot of times it's the mind, the ego. And so instead of ignoring that, we bring it in to a certain extent and say, why don't you go learn? Why don't you go teach yourself something? Let's do a book study. Let's learn about energy. Let's walk a labyrinth. Let's whatever it may be. And so that was kind of the soul journeyer. That was the person that was coming aboard to just say, you know what, I'm really curious about the spiritual stuff, or new thought, or consciousness, or meditation, or like, I'm curious. And then I had a college gap program for kids that weren't quite ready to go into college, but just wanted to have some answer those big questions of who am I and why am I here? So I had those two programs kind of going. The third one was a practitioner, Vistara practitioner of healing arts. And the whole idea of that is I'm not going to tell you how to be a practitioner. You may have hidden gifts inside of you that are unique, that the world has never seen, at least in this dimension of time. And who am I to interfere with that? I'm just here to facilitate you remembering and unveiling, and I'll be here to support. We can start with a little structure, but the whole idea is it can't be structured eventually. But we start with safety, and then people can go out, and depends on where they are in their own consciousness. That was the weird one, because I really couldn't tell people. I was like, we have a practitioner program, and they're like, well, what will I learn? I'm like, don't know. Can't wait for you to tell me what you're going to learn. Have no idea. But we're going to meditate. We're going to do a guided meditation. I'm going to help you go into your wisdom. I call it the wisdom tree, kind of where this little girl is. And you're going to learn how to listen to your intuition. You're going to find your inner voice. You're going to find and claim your soul's wisdom. And you're going to tell me how you want to serve. You're going to tell me what I can do to support you, what the great, beautiful world can support you. But you're going to discover the hidden practitioner inside of you, and I'm just going to love and support you as we do that. That was the one I thought no one would sign up for. I'm in North Carolina, which I love. I wouldn't be anywhere else. But I'm in a little bit in the Bible Belt too, which I respect and have no judgment for at all. And that was the one.
In addition to being in the Bible Belt and talking about spirituality, which is not a Bible Belt topic, you are creating an educational environment that's organic.
Very much.
It's not Legos.
Yeah.
And it's not fill in the blanks, multiple choice.
And it's everything I've always believed. When working with little kids.
Magnificent.
Well, and when working with little kids, and that was why the first half of my career was the most perfect education for me, because I'm looking at these little wise souls, and they know who they are up to a certain point until we tell them who they are, right? And they have this wisdom, and they have this knowingness, like Missy's saying, help people find, reveal, and anchor their inner light. Absolutely. And these children were the ones that were guiding me and showing me this is the truth. And so I feel like it's just doing that with adults. And that was the one program I thought would be, that was like the weird program. And it was the one that got the most attention. And again, I'm not one to advertise. It was just a quiet, I'm a big believer in the energy will find its people. And when I say yes, and I ask every day, how shall I serve? Bring me those who I can serve in the highest good and trust it. And so that first core group of people were, again, amazing teachers. And so I got this philosophy. I've had it for a long time. Now I've got one person sitting in front of me saying, okay, I'm signing up. Let's go. And I'm like, okay, yes, let's go. And then we both got silent, and I just asked to be guided for what's in the highest good for them. And it was pretty spectacular, all the different things that people unveiled within themselves that came from their voice, from their knowingness. And I just started writing it down. And then they did it. And of course, just like anything else, it ebbs and flows. I call it the circle of learning. It's that
Mm-hmm.
I see light, I feel light, I am. And some of it may be very traditional with reading and book studies. Some of it may be very exploratory. There's some healing in there. And there's also service, giving back. Sometimes we learn by teaching. Sometimes we learn by stepping in the field of it and offering, taking a chance, give an energy session, try your intuition, go walk a labyrinth, see what happens, go host a class. And it's been pretty phenomenal. So that first group that's kind of how we started. Long
So
answer.
you have a how do I put this? A set of, I don't know what to call them. They're not categories. They're not practices. They're modalities. That's what they are. They're modalities.
They're
You have
modalities, and they're
modalities,
asked. If you
music,
look at
storytelling, and
us,
dance, and
yeah.
and
If you
so
look at the
how did
circle,
you determine what those were going to be? And don't forget to tell us how food got in the mix, because I really want to know that.
well, let me start with the first part, and then I'll tell you how it's expanded. So, and it's because of that core group, and they know who they are. Women and a few men in there, and my husband being one of those, came aboard and said yes to something they really weren't sure what they were saying yes to fully, but they could feel it. And so those modalities that you're talking about, I call them aspects of a circle.
Okay.
And so it's honoring the intellect, it's honoring the heart, it's honoring the two going in, getting that momentum going together to bring up the consciousness to a higher place of understanding. Um, and so the way I figured out what those were was I've been working with people for the last 7 years. And when they were saying to me, I want a little more structure, can you just give me a little something? And after a while, I thought, well, people keep asking, even though I know that you're not going to discover your divine truth in a book necessarily. It can guide you to a higher place of consciousness and healing to where you can find it for yourself inside. So I said, okay, book studies, foundational studies. It could be a class, it could be divine, it could be something, a higher consciousness class. Like I love when some authors talk about their books are a passageway more than just the information. And then I started noticing that people were, okay, that's good, but I know it up here, but I'm not living it here. There was this gap between knowing it and living it. And so that's where the exploration came. I said, well, play. You need to be like a child. Go play, go explore, go what you did. I played in the sandbox when I was little. Go play in sand, go make a fairy house, go buy some Play-Doh and allow the inner child to come out. And so the inner child, the joyful inner child, comes out through exploration and play. And so that's where that exploration category came. And then honoring the healing. There's trauma for some, and honor the healing of whatever those healing modalities for you. So those are the like healing, foundational studies, exploration are 3. And then depending on if they want to be a practitioner, or even if they don't want to be a practitioner, community, and offering something back, giving something back to your community, serving, kind of like an apprenticeship, creating something, be creative and offer something. It doesn't have to be fancy. It could be 2 people come to your little book study, or it could be going out in the community and creating a labyrinth, whatever it may be. And then so those are the kind of the 4 aspects of a circle of learning. And the 5th is when it's embodiment. So all these things circle together and take momentum, and it heals and helps you remember in ways you cannot imagine. And it can be really subtle, and sometimes it can be shocking. And then you've embodied it. So people would come and say, well, how am I going to know I've embodied it? I was like, oh, you're going to know. And what's fascinating is I love working with people for the first time, and they unveil their first circle of learning. And I call it the mandala circle because mandalas just keep growing,
Oh, I
spiraling
know. I
upwards,
love
right?
them.
And it's coming from the light and going up, and like a mandala. And some people say, well, how am I now? So just start the process. We may ebb and flow, it may change because there's nothing set in stone, but just start the process. And every time someone I just completed my first circle. And I was like, tell me how you know. They're like, wow, I just had this understanding, this aha, this spot. Like I just this when I call it a fusion point. You've had a fusion when the circle came together and you knew. And then they're like, then they get excited because when a circle ends and they have this embodiment moment, then it seems like an ending of something, but it's really just the beginning of something else, right?
Yeah.
And so what happened after that first group came through is my son went over to Emerson College in England, another Emerson, which is hilarious. There's a lot of Emersons in my life. And he went to a different type of college, Emerson, and he went to the School of Storytelling. They have a school of storytelling. They have a school of sacred geometry. Y'all need to check it out. It's the coolest
I love sacred geometry.
place. It's not far from London. It's where the 100 Acre Wood is, for real. Like that's where he was inspired. So anyway, I was like, huh. And then I started having these people come together that had these gifts started being covered. I had artists, I had musicians, I had people that were really connected to shamanism and Native American ceremony. And so I was talking with Missy, and I was like, I think there's more. I think there's branches of this school, like branch schools. And it is what Missy called the God language I'm calling them divine languages or sacred mediums. It's the things and places in earth that remind us and reflect back to us who we are.
So,
So art.
so when somebody shows up at your school,
Mm-hmm.
you hand them a potter's wheel and a clump of clay and say,
Well,
have at it.
they sit and decide what is it like. For instance, I'm going to use my husband as an example. So my husband, he's an attorney.
Mhm.
Your son-in-law, by the way. We joke we're spiritually connected with that way. So that's her son-in-law, and he's an attorney and has a logical attorney's mind, and he's very good at what he does. Right, he's a sweet attorney, but he's very good at that. And so when he sat and unveiled his first circle, I took him into meditation. They're always a little different. And I had this feeling about something he said. And I said, are you interested in art? And I said, I've got Wendy Ann, I've got Amanda and Wendy, both two, they just graduated. They're two facilitators within school and they're artists. And Wendy was doing an art class, an abstract art class. And I said, does your soul feel called to do that? Would that be helpful for you? And he said, yes. And so he signed up for her art class. Now I got him an easel for Christmas. He has all this paint and it's good stuff that he's doing, but more importantly, it's freeing his soul. He's getting these spatulas and he's doing these things with art that is healing him in ways he doesn't realize, or he does now. And so what we decided was, through all this, I'm like, there are sacred languages here that just being imbued in that energy and that consciousness of art, of music, of really beautiful food and nature and sacred ceremony and metaphysics and all these things, being around it and in it and playing in that playground of those things, that has the God spark in it already. We join in with that, spontaneous things can happen, spontaneous healings can happen, spontaneous inspirations can happen. And so we want to honor those seven sacred languages, those seven sacred mediums, the divine languages. And so it is art. It's both visual art, expressatory art. It could be acting, music, acting, and any kind of visual art, pottery, photography. There's so many things under that realm. There is music and vibration. It's not just music. We know that vibration, everything is, well, I'll get to that in a minute. All everything is all interrelated, but music and vibration, storytelling and expressive arts like that, sacred ancient practices. Um, I'm a big metaphysics person, and I could never learn that in a book. That would be too. It just feels too it's hard for me. I need to learn it through experience. Wellness, movement, dance, food, all of those things. When we are imbued in those workshops or opportunities that have a little bit of all those things working as one whole, pretty darn amazing things happen. And again, we're just bringing the playground for people to play in because you're your own healer.
So tell me, what's the age range of students that you have at your school?
Right now we're small, so we well, I say we're small. In the spring, we're opening up these branch schools. We're doing bigger things with that because they all work as one. But we're doing that in the spring in the mountains of North Carolina, and we're going to have like a weekend retreat. We're going to do that seasonally. But right now, I mean, I have 18 and up right now. Usually it's going to be someone by the time they're kind of interested in this is probably mid-20s and up. A lot of people, the age ranges are probably 30. Yeah, we are honoring the creative. It's about 30, and let's see, am I the oldest? I think there's older people than me. I can't remember. There's just we got a variety of different people. But the people that are doing the Vistara practitioner program have the opportunity to be facilitators within the school and offer workshops. But again, it's so important to imbue the energy of higher consciousness, of unconditional love and non-judgment, of being creative, honoring the creative child within that is really the wise one of all, and just offering a space for people to be free.
Okay, now I have a handful of questions that I ask every guest.
Sure.
And sometimes they sound like they're off the wall because of what the guest is presenting, but they're not.
I love you, Sharri. There's nothing you could say off the wall to me.
Okay, so here's the first one. How does this ministry, because what you're doing is a ministry, I don't care what anybody says, how does this ministry promote, facilitate, enhance conscious evolution?
It's meeting people where they are. It's loving them where they are, and facilitating them to remember that they are enough, more than enough, that they are these beautiful creative beings that are here for a reason. They're here to be creative, to here to love, to here to bring out the best in the earth. To me, I find when a person is peaceful and joyful and creative, it is a pretty magical place to be. And the more of that we have, how could it not be a better planet?
What popped into my head when you started talking just this minute is that Vistara School of Wisdom is really Vistara School of Self-Discovery.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. I'm going to steal that.
You have it, of course. Okay, here's the next one. How does your ministry contribute to world peace?
Again, find the peace within. You become the peace. You claim your birthright of peace, harmony, wholeness. Missy said that to me, I don't know how many times when we were first working together. Claim it. Own your birthright. Angelo Pizzillo says that. It's your birthright. And so when you know that that's your birthright, not from a place of ego or arrogance, from a place of humble, that we are all literally one and we all really are the same. When you claim that consciousness, when you claim your birthright, you see the world differently. You see it from that. To me, it's the only real perspective, but you see it from a clear perspective of unconditional love, divine love, and wisdom, and joy, and opportunity, and creativity. And so your interactions with everyone is different. It's not coming from a place of ego, control, or fear. It's coming from the heart. I used to teach a class in high school called Living with Purpose for high schoolers, and it was a self-empowerment mindful class. And through that, I used to love it because, of course, they challenge me and argue with me, and I love it because that's where I learn. And someone said something and challenged something I said, and I was like, "Look, do you want to change the world, or do you want the world to change you?" I was like, "Where do you want to have influence?" I said, "And here's the thing: when you feel whole and happy inside, not happy in that happy hyper way, but peaceful and harmonized, when you feel that within, can you imagine like how that shifts their perspective of everything else that you're seeing?" I loving people naturally do loving things. People that love themselves fully and wholly doesn't mean I think you're perfect all the time. God knows I know that I have my moments, but I still love myself. I still love myself, not from a place of ego, but from a humbleness. That was the best I could do in that moment. My Angela would always say that. But I love myself through it. So loving people that love themselves naturally do loving things for others and themselves without thinking. People that don't love themselves, that have shame and guilt and fear and sadness and like regret and like, and beating themselves up all the time, that's living in here and it's projecting out here. And so we naturally do things that either harm ourselves or others. It just depends on the personality wants to filter that through. So to me, it's like, why would we not want that more?
Oh, wonderful. Okay, now I have one more everybody gets it question, but something just popped into my mind that I want to ask about your school, and that is you have the 7 or 8 modalities. What languages? Seven. Does everybody study all 7?
It's up to you. Here's
Okay.
the thing, they work together as one. You're not going to find one workshop with just art. You're going to find nature, art, music, vibration. Like it's all going to be
All
together.
integrated.
It's
Okay.
all integrated, but can someone want to delve in and specialize in something by the time we get up and going more? Yes. But I think what just like we're taught as children, math, reading, science, just as it's all these separate categories, but when we get and let go of that structure, everything is one. Everything works as one whole. And that's the same thing with the modalities. We're honoring the languages, the sacred languages. It may take one for someone to be curious about. I'm curious of all 7. I am not an expert in maybe any of them, but I am curious about them all. So it is, but it may take that one like art class that brings you into something bigger and richer within yourselves. And then you may want to go explore nature bathing more, collecting herbs. I have this one practitioner student that will eventually be a facilitator soon. And you talk about food, you should see the sacredness of what she has done, collecting things in nature to then create, then to eat, and then to give back, and to it is it's just I don't even have a word for it. It's spiritual, it's
Sounds
magical.
magnificent to me.
Yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does
I have
indeed.
some
It does
structure, but
indeed.
I don't want too much
And
structure
I
either.
have one more question I ask everybody.
Yes, ma'am.
Um, and everybody gives me the right answer, which makes my whole day. Because the question is, will you come back?
Oh, you're about the only person I would do this for. I keep this up until today with you. Vistara has been and it still is, it's a sacred, quiet mystery school. Missy and I talk about that all the time. And that's important. It's important to do that. And so if I'm ever going to go anywhere and talk about it, it will be with you. Because I just like you. I like your energy. I think you're as pure, you're fun, you're funny, you're authentic and pure. And my husband and I just fall in love with you every time we see you.
Well,
So,
it's mutual.
and
And
you
thank
could
you
have your
so
own
much
TV
for
show.
being here. I know that everyone who has been watching and everyone who ever will watch will absolutely love hearing you speak. And please come next week, folks, because next week we have Reverend Dr. Jerry Troyer, who's he's the president of the board of the affiliated New Thought Network, but he is also the Urban Street Angels Ministry, which is an amazing ministry. You're going to love hearing about it. And it's different from anything we've done so far, which is part of the plan. So good for that. And thank you very much. And do not go away, because we have a brand new show starting as soon as we stop talking, right after this show, with Tracy Brown doing poetry prayer practice. She is one of the coolest people you could ever hear, see, talk to, learn from. So don't miss it. Give her a shot and you'll come back every week. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you.
Amazing, amazing, you will do amazing